Hey game designers, in this video we're actually going to be helping you guys finish your Module 4 project, painting your spaceship and turning it into your West Hills Canvas account. Okay, so this is kind of the finished product. I just want to show you guys that this is what we're going to be after. We're going to show you guys how to basically paint your your spaceship using Vectory. Now, inside the original assignment, you're supposed to use Mudbox and you're basically able to actually paint over your spaceship using painting tools. But since we don't have access to that, most of us do not have access to that, we're going to teach you how to do it inside Vectory. So you kind of see my spaceship right now and what it looks like, and this is going to be our final product. Now, just FYI, for those of you who do have a computer and want to try installing Mudbox, I will give you a link back to Professor Newman's video on how to use Mudbox. You guys already saw it prior to us leaving. Um, I would teach you. I mean, you guys can go ahead and do the assignment using Mudbox, but for the most of you guys will be using Vectory in order to complete the assignment. Okay, so just a couple of things I want to clear up before we start. Okay, so I wanted you guys to know the difference between a material and a texture. So a material controls how a 3D object appears on the screen. Textures are just simply images used to skin 3D objects. Okay, so this kind of main thing you need to remember. You cannot apply a texture to an object without a material. Okay, so basically every object inside of 3D modeling has a material. And inside that material, you might have different textures. Okay, that texture could be nothing. That texture could look like leaves. That texture can look like rocks. Could look like brick. But ultimately, textures are just images that are inside materials. Now, don't also forget that materials, in addition to being just an image, it has things like shaders. So it tells you how to shade, like for example, plastic or metals. They reflect light differently. Okay, so it appears different based on things like how transparent it is, how reflective it is, how dull it looks, how rubbery it looks. Things like that affect how the color ultimately looks like. So this is some of the things I want you guys to distinguish. And this is what the daily slides are going to be about. So for those of you who plan on using Mudbox, you can ignore the rest of the video, except for the first few moments. But the rest of you guys will be watching the rest of the video in order to complete your Module 4 project. Okay? All right, so let's get started. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to go onto your West Hills account, and under Module 4 Overview, it tells you that you can download the model of the painting right here. So it says download model here. Just go ahead and click on it. It's going to download spaceship.object obj here inside your download folder inside your Chromebooks. So next thing you're going to do is you're going to open up Vectory, and I'm actually going to close this so that we're kind of starting fresh. Inside uh, your today's link, there's a link to Vectory. Go ahead and click on link to Vectory, and go ahead and click on the link to open Vectory. Just a quick note, the version of Vectory that we're using only allows for 3 projects, so you cannot make more than 3 projects. But remember, inside of each project, you can have multiple objects. So technically, we can put all of our things in one project. Okay, just go and click on create a new project. Okay, and let's go ahead and give the project a name so that we know what we're doing with here. So we're just going to click on, I think, here and click on rename. And we're going to call it module 4 spaceship or something like that. Okay. All right, so module 4 spaceship. So what we're going to do now is under the object tab, there's a button called import. We're going to click on import here, and it's going to say drag and drop the file to import, or you can click on choose file. Go ahead and click on choose file. Now yours are going to be a little bit different than mine because I'm using Windows. You guys are going to have your Chromebooks, but it's all going to be inside the downloads folder, and it's going to be the spaceship that you downloaded. So go ahead and click on the spaceship that you downloaded, click on open. And you can see now that the spaceship that Professor Newman provided is now inside our Vectory uh, project here. So we're gonna go ahead and get it kind of out of the ground here. So let's just use the arrow up here and kind of move it out of the ground and kind of look around here. You can use Alt and right click to kind of, hover to the center of this thing. Okay. All right. So a couple things you need to understand in terms of Vectory. In Vectory, we cannot apply a material on each face. We can only apply materials on each object. So let's check all the objects that we have in our object list. Here we have the spaceship booster. Here we have one of the wings. Here we have one of the tails. Here we have one of the other tails. Here we have another wing. And last we have the chassis. Okay, so we can only apply materials on each of the objects, but that doesn't mean that we can't paint each face, but I will tell you exactly what I mean in a minute. So the cool thing about Vectory is that there's a library here for you to apply materials to objects. So as you can already kind of see right here, these are some of the generic materials and assets that they have. And a spaceship is always going to be on a metal, so I'm actually going to click on metal. Okay, so I have metal open, and now I can apply these materials into the ship. So I'm actually going to go ahead and take the first one, Chrome Glossy here, and just try it. Just drag and click. And you can tell this makes my spaceship really, really shiny. And I think it's a little bit too shiny. And this is kind of up to you. There's no right or wrong material to use. But I like this one right here. Okay. I don't know. I just tried the second one. And you can try different ones you want. Um, something like that, something like that, something like this. So kind of get the one that you feel is right for you. I think, ooh, that one looks good too. So basically, chrome satin or silver satin is what I'm going to use. You can use whatever one you want. Actually, I think I like the other one better, a little bit less shiny. So I can apply materials to the various different objects. Now remember, we have a chassis, a left wing, a right wing, a tail, another tail, and a booster in the back. So most of these things are going to be metal. So I'm going to probably maybe make my wings a little shiny here. So let's go ahead for me. Uh, let's go ahead and apply some more glossier look. So this was silver. So I'm going to do silver on the wings here. Just drag and drop. I'm going to do some chrome on the tails. Some gloss on the tails. Kind of add a little metal there. Add a little metal there. Okay. And then I'm going to add some glossiness. Maybe something even a little bit more sturdy, like titanium, for the booster in the back. Okay, and let's go ahead and kind of go back to my object view and see if I have everything kind of painted. So I have the rocket booster, I have the wings, I have a tail, another tail, a wing, a chassis one, and looks like I have a chassis, another one down here. Did I accidentally duplicate this? Let's see what's going on here. Oops, I accidentally duplicated it. I think I hit Control D by accident. So go ahead and delete the copied version. I think that one was the copied version. So I'm going to Control Z back. I think I accidentally created a copy. Let's go ahead and delete this. Okay, so yeah, I accidentally made a copy. Okay, so this is kind of like the material of what my spaceship will look like. That doesn't mean the color yet. So now we can go in and actually change the colors. So let's kind of add some color to our object here. I'm kind of patriotic, so I'm going to do some like red, white, and blue, kind of up to you to do what you want. I'm going to leave the chassis kind of a little bit of a dark gray color, so I'm going to kind of go toward the gray scale here and find some gray color like that. I'm going to go to the wings, and let's see, red, white, and blue, so let's make the wings a blue color, so kind of like that. And I can go to this wing over here, and you can kind of see right here, I have silver glossy 1. If I go to the wing over another material, if I go to the other wing, instead of making another silver glossy, I can use silver glossy 1, and it will use the same color that I did on the other wing. Okay, so there's my red, or there's my blue. let's go to the tails and let's make it a shiny red color. So I'm gonna go to red over here, and let's go like a pure red or maybe a little bit off red, kind of a more darker color red here. And if I go on to the other tail, again, if I remember the material that I use glossy silver glossy 3. I can go over here and go silver glossy 3, and it will be the same color as the other one. Okay, so it kind of shares the same color now. Maybe I want to go back to the wings here and maybe use a kind of a more washed out blue, like something like that. Okay, and now we have this chassis, and let's see if I want to paint the chassis. So here's the chassis, and it's kind of a gray body-ish, and I can apply a different color if I want. Let's say if I want to do like a pure white, something like this, right? Maybe I don't want the whole thing white. Maybe I just want to keep it a kind of a gray, kind of a white color gray here. Okay. But again, this is kind of the problem though. We can't apply materials to each face. So if you want to do a customization, we really can't with the way that it's structured right now. So for example, let's say there's a cockpit and the cockpit usually has glass. But right now, this entire chassis includes the cockpit and it's some type of metal. It's some type of silver satin. So we really can't go in here and change the chassis. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually split the object up. So if you go to the edit mode, this is the chassis and all the individual faces. So what we're going to do is we're going to separate the chassis into different parts so that we can color different parts of the chassis. So for example, let's say I want to make the bottom half of the spaceship a different metal, even if a different material altogether. I can do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go to the side view here and it's going to snap. I'm going to use the selection tool and use the marquee tool. And I'm going to kind of select all the faces on the bottom. And maybe try that again. Let's see if I can snap here. I'm going to use it again. This tool is kind of make sure you get to collect the entire face. Okay, so I kind of dragged over the entire face, otherwise it's not going to consider it part of the things I selected. And right now it kind of selects everything that I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Control X. Control X is like cut and paste, right? So if I use Control X, it will delete the bottom half of my spaceship. And I'm going to create a new object. So here, this is how you create a new object. Create a new object, and now hit Control V. So now I have the bottom half and the top half. So let's go ahead and rename it real quickly before we forget. I'm going to double click here. I'm going to go to Object, and I'm going to call it Bottom Chassis. Or let's just call it Chassis Bottom. Okay. So now I have a whole nother object. So now if you go to the Object window again, I have two different objects, the top half of the chassis and the bottom half of the chassis. And did I duplicate it again by accident? What did I do? Let's click on this, click on this. I think I accidentally deleted something. Up, Control Z, 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 Control Z. Okay. Huh. Okay. For whatever reason, it looks like when I controlled X, I grabbed more faces than I wanted to. So let's Control Z back. Oh, okay, I know what I did wrong. So my mistake. So what you want to do is that you want to make sure you click on faces. Okay, you don't want to take and delete edges. If you delete edges, it will take away some of the faces. So I need to go on to face mode. So now that I have all the faces selected by clicking on face mode, now I can Control X, cut out the faces, and now create a new object, Control V, paste it, and now I have the bottom chassis. So let's go ahead and go back here and make chassis bottom. Okay, and now go to the object window and let's go ahead and apply some material. So now I have the two tops now, the bottom top and the bottom top. So the bottom one, I'm going to apply a different material. Just go to library, and instead of like I think I used a silver satin over here, I'm going to use a more darker color. So let's say it's the same color as the booster. So I'm going to apply right here titanium glossy. So it's kind of a darker, harder metal because you might land on it or something in an emergency crash. Assume that it's like a different material, and just make it a little bit less brown here. But you can see it reflects light a little bit differently. It's a little bit of a darker color. And now here's our opportunity to really go in there and add customization, right? So basically we split the top half and the bottom half. Well, what about that cockpit I was talking about where I want it to be glass? Well, I can go in there and change it. So let's say I go back to the top chassis and I go to the edit window. I have these faces that I want to turn into glass. So I'm going to basically use a selection tool here, and just since it's not that many, I'm just going to shift left click. So make sure you click on face mode here. Shift left click, 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 shift left click. Kind of go back here, shift left click, hold alt, shift left click, shift left click. And now I have basically the cockpit. So again, I'm going to use Control X to kind of cut it out, right? I'm going to create a new object, and I'm going to paste those faces, and I'm going to call this the cockpit. Okay, so let's go into our object window here and kind of go into our cockpit and see in our library if we have something like glass. So this is metals. If I hit this left arrow here, I can access the other materials. I'm going to glass, and I'm just going to pick, I don't know, standard glass. Maybe just put a little tint on it and just apply it on my object. So now I have glass. And glass, as you can tell, has high reflectivity and probably really high opacity. Uh, so basically, you can actually see right through it. So basically, that color that you see here has nothing to really do with the glass because glass doesn't really have much of a color, right? You can kind of give it a little bit of a tint. You can see I turn it into blue, but it only has like a slight tint, right? Because the real color is basically seeing through it. It's highly transparent, so you can see that I can kind of look right through um, this cockpit and kind of see it. So even when I give it a bluish tint, it's just a tint. From certain angles, you can see the color of the glass, but it's relatively transparent. Okay, that's kind of cool. So we're kind of getting the look that we want here. Let's say I want to go even more customization. So let's say I want to make some white color. So I'm going to add some white color. So I'm going to go back to the object view, click back on the chassis, which is all these faces. I'll go back to edit mode, and I want to add some white strips. So let's say I'll make all these strips right here white color to kind of add some customization. So I'm just going to shift left click, 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 and shift left click. And maybe even kind of go a little bit to the back here, shift left click, and yeah, kind of add some white color here. So I'm going to use again Control X to kind of create a new object with these faces. So I'm going to delete these basically objects, but I'm going to create a new object, hit Control V, and paste those objects back on. And I'm just going to call it like white strips or white stripes. White stripes, okay. And I'm going to go back to my object view here. And now that it's an object, I can change to different color to pure white. You can see that kind of adds a little bit more color to my spaceship. It's starting to look a little more cooler. Okay, so a couple, maybe a little bit more color here. I'm gonna go down here and maybe kind of give a little bit of color to the bottom. So now if I click on the chassis bottom here, go to edit view, um, I can go ahead and click on these faces. Maybe I want to make these faces white and really give it a customized look. And again, this is all up to you. I'm just showing you how you can do it. I'm not saying how you need to do it. Okay, so I'm going to click on these white faces, and I'm going to make them white. So I'm just going to Control X again to kind of delete those faces, and I'm going to use a new object. I'm going to hit Control V to add those faces to this new object, and I'm going to call it, I don't know, white panels. something like that. So I'm going to go back into my object view here and turn that color to pure white. And now my ship has some pretty, you know, separate colors. And if suppose you want to go add in more color, you can go ahead and add more color. So say you want these, I don't know, these engine chambers or whatever to be a different color, you can go ahead and do that. It's kind of up to you. There's again this is kind of like your artistic freedom going here. You can kind of do in what you want, but the idea is to kind of get your spaceship kind of customized to the way that you want it. Now, let's suppose that you really want to go really custom. Like you want to go like even more custom than here. So let's, for example, I go to the top chassis. And I'm not saying you should do this, but let's say this is something you want to do. So let's say if I go back to chassis number 2 and I go to hit edit, okay? Let's say that I wanted to create an extra face here so I can paint it white. So suppose you really wanted to customize and create another face that kind of strips that kind of go across, something like that. You can do that. You can kind of go to the draw line tool right here and draw lines. So let's say I want to go middle point here, and it kind of snaps to the middle point here, and kind of connect to the middle point here. Okay, and then you can hit enter when you're done. Okay, you created 2 new faces that you can now go in. Oops, that you can now go in and color them separately. So if you want to go in there and make these a separate color, you can do so. So likewise, you can come back here. I kind of snap my tool here, snap my view. You can go to, again, the draw tool, and you can draw and create more faces, right? Hit enter. You can see now, if I go to the face select, these are now separate faces. So it's kind of like a cut tool, okay? Even though I kind of destroyed geometry here. But you can see that, I can create more faces than originally planned. And I can customize those faces and make them different colors and things of that nature. So just telling you how you could add more customization to your thing. So it's going to go back to the object view here, and you can turn on your rendering to instead of low quality to high quality and really see what your spaceship looks like in the highest quality that this has. So you can kind of see now my finished spaceship. Okay. And I'm going to give you guys actually 2 days to do this. So I'll give you guys today and tomorrow in terms of working on your module 4 spaceship. It shouldn't take you more than 30 or 40 minutes. Tomorrow I'm going to post a video on how to submit your project. Okay. So make sure you guys are up for the task. Okay. All right. This is done for this video. See you guys.